welcome to Julie B. Deep Dives. And today I am honored to be chatting with a bona fide legend, Mary Walsh, who helped shape the landscape of Canadian comedy with provocative political satire and social commentary as a member of Newfoundland comedy troupe CODCO, the TV series CODCO, the faux newscast series This Hour Has 22 Minutes, and many other film and TV acting and writing credits. Most recently, as the oddball fan favorite character Annie on The Institute. So without further ado, let's get into it. Ms. Walsh, thank you so much for being here today. I know fans of The Institute really, they wish they had a chance to see more of you because, I think you got taken out too soon. But just to start off, like back up a little bit, I've noticed that in interviews, you've said that you actually never really wanted to be a performer, and originally you wanted to be either a novelist or a journalist. And yet, what an amazing career you've had as a performer and also a writer, director. And then later, I know you did eventually get to write a novel, but how did you slide into performing so young and starting what would turn out to be such an influential legendary theater group?
I got a job on CBC, which is the national broadcaster, but it was a regional show, or actually, I think it was just a provincial show, and it was called Summer Magazine, and I got the job as the summer replacement. Well, I guess it was just a show that they did in the summer. I can't remember now, Julie. It was so long ago. But anyway, I got the job because I was so sure I would never get the job that I was completely relaxed when I did the audition. And in big shock to me, I got the job, and then I completely, got terrified and spent the only mail we ever got was somebody wrote in from Grand Falls to say, who is the mad giggler on from 10 to 11? That was me. But so that didn't work out. But what it did was someone who was doing an amateur production heard me on the radio, liked the sound of my voice. They were doing a version of the king was in the counting house, counting all his money. The queen was in the eating bread and honey. They were doing a kind of grown-up version of that. She was orgasmically eating bread and honey, which, I'd never had an orgasm at that point. And really, definitely was kind of not ready to play one on stage either. But anyway, so that didn't go that well. But I got in with a crowd, and from that, really, I joined even though I'd still planned to be a journalist, I joined the first semi-professional touring company in the province. And so I did that, and then I really got in. I fell in with a crowd is really what happened. And I couldn't get into journalism school because my marks weren't good enough, but I did manage to limp into theater school in Toronto. And other people who later became CODCO members and also went to Toronto at that time looking for work. And so that's where it all started there. And at about age 27, I kind of realized that I probably was not going to be a journalist and I should just keep on going. And so when I created This Hour Is 22 Minutes, it was a great thing for me because even though I never got to be a journalist, I did get to play one on TV. So almost as good, really. Probably more fun, really.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Especially, the political climate has gotten more and more dicey and unpleasant. So it's probably more fun to just play one on TV. Yes, you were the creator of an incredible, trailblazing mock newscast series. And when I watched it, I hadn't seen it as an American. I went and I watched, and I was hooked on it. It was just, I couldn't believe how much, like, for example, the US is The Daily Show. It seems like it had to have taken some inspiration from your series because it was just, there's so many similarities. And when your series came out, I think it was pretty novel. I couldn't find anything else that was similar to it.
That was the week, and our show was similar to That Was the Week That Was, which was a British show, which I watched when I was young, growing up. And so that's what I had in mind, was So we all just are very similar to each other, really, I guess, if you're in the business of satire, political satire, right?
Absolutely. Um, so what was that like? I mean, what challenges did you face doing that kind of muckraking political satire that you were doing?
The really big challenge, of course, was that on Monday morning we wouldn't have a show, and by Friday night we'd be doing a live show in front of an audience in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and on Monday we would go live across the country. So that was the challenge, to ever get the feeling that you could get from nothing to a full 22 minutes by Friday night, and of course believing that. I used to do a character named Marg Delahunty, who was a princess warrior, and I would go and ambush the prime minister and things. And so it was, I would be really like, I used to wear a kind of costume that was based on Xena, Princess Warrior. But it was just made out of red felt and gold glue, and I had a sword, a plastic sword from Toys R Us. And so sometimes, we would wait till the scrum with a real journalist ask their questions, and then we would get the prime minister or the minister of labor or whoever when everybody else was finished. So I would just feel a great deal of shame as I was there, in sort of clownish makeup, in in a red felt costume with covered in gold glue. And as everybody else was in their Burberry with their good leather briefcases. And so, but in the end, that really helped, because I think that I'm already, I already feel so ashamed. I might as well just go ahead and do it, because what odds at this point? I'm already at the bottom. So it's funny how things work out, isn't it? It actually worked out in my favor, because it gave me I thought, what have I got to lose at this point,
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that was one of your most favorite roles, I know. And so she was inspired in part by Xena Warrior Princess.
Her look, for sure. Yeah.
Her look. Where did you get inspiration for her personality? Her striking, brash personality.
Oh, in CODCO, Tommy Sexton first did a character called Marg, and it was based on a Marg that he knew. And then in CODCO, we all played Margs, and mostly all the women character in CODCO were called Marg, and all the men were called Jerry. And I know it doesn't sound very sensible, but so a lot of it came from that. I mean, a lot of it came out of my mother, I guess, and women, loud, abrasive, brash women that I knew, who could not be pushed back. Really, I never felt that I was that. That's why I found doing characters so good. I did try to go out as myself once and ambush someone. I think it was Tubby Black, Lord, whatever his name is, Black. And I just was overwhelmed. There's that thing of trying to look good with the right lipstick and the right clothes and everything that gets in the way of women when they're at that age where I'm past that now because I'm 73. I don't give a fuck how I look. But then I still wanted to be, what I thought people would want. I wanted to look like an attractive, woman. And I really found it was just so, putting on a character of an older woman who is like, with terrible makeup and a terrible costume, just gave me freedom that I'd never had as myself.
Yeah, I mean, female comedians going back to Lucille Ball, have to not be afraid to look ridiculous, in the name of comedy, and it takes a lot of guts, and it really it takes a lot of courage to do what you were doing. I mean, you know, you had to your thing was you ambushed politicians. Like, I mean, yeah, the Toronto mayor, there was that infamous encounter with Rob Ford, and and even Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I saw a clip of that. That was amazing. You got to get a few moments with him anyway, and you had to really to do this. You had to think on your feet and improvise while in character. Is there a particular encounter or encounters that you're most proud of, or that stand out to you the most?
Well, former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien was my favorite person to ambush because it was a terrifying thing to do, as you can imagine. But Chrétien was so, I don't know, he was funny anyway. He just had a natural sense of humor. And he was very, very comfortable in himself. And so there was a certain comfort, like I felt like even if I screwed up completely, we'd still get something out of it because Chrétien would bring something. So he was the easiest. And then I kissed Stephen Harper, who was the conservative prime minister. And that was, he's a very, very bad kisser as well as a bad prime minister, I think. But anyway, yeah, so there were lots of highlights, and then I shot off my cap guns in the legislature in Edmonton. I'm not proud of that. I was going after Ralph Klein, who was the premier of Alberta at the time, and something that Ralph said put me right off, and I was dressed as a cowgirl because my best friend Patty was the costume mistress, and I always wanted one of those cowgirl outfits when I was growing up and never had gotten one. So she made me a beautiful with side guns, with cap guns, those red things, yeah, with the red. And so I had them. And then I reached for them and shot them off in the legislature because I was so confused. I didn't know what else to do, which really taught me the really good lesson is never have a gun handy, because if things get difficult, you will use it. Or at least people who are kind of loony like myself. There are people who should never have sharp knives or guns around. Just to be clear, it was just paper cap things that I shot off, not bullets or anything like that or anything. Yeah. Nothing dangerous, just alarming and not proper.
Yes. And I saw the video of that kiss too. That was gutsy. Wow. That, I mean, that could have gone sideways, but he was a good sport. It seemed.
And he was. You know why he was a good sport? Because he hadn't been elected then. Once he got elected, he wouldn't even let real journalists within 40 feet of him, and then they weren't allowed. He did that regular conservative thing where he totally tried to get rid of all the scientists, totally wouldn't let the press in to ask him any, the standard conservative playbook, right? But he hadn't been elected at that point, so
Yeah. So trying to be a people pleaser.
yeah.
And of course Rob Ford. I mean, that whole encounter was so mild. I saw that there was backlash against it, and then I went and watched it. And I thought, this is no big deal at all. You didn't do anything untoward, and the backlash against it just seemed so
And
ridiculous.
it only lasted for a minute, the backlash, because it
Yeah.
was so fake. He called the police on me and emergency services, and he tried to have me arrested and things. And he said his children were there and they weren't. You know what I mean? But I had no idea he was a crack addict and an alcoholic at the time. And had I known, I wouldn't have ambushed him because, I mean, he was already suffering enough without. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think he said he was frightened. I was, I guess, 65 at the time. I don't know why he would be frightened of an old woman coming towards him. But anyway, he'd been in some fever crack dream or something, and anyway, I didn't mean to in any way. I just felt so sorry for him after all that happened. And of course, he's dead now, so we always have to speak well of the dead.
Of course. Absolutely. And I just gotta say, I have immense respect for people like you who utilize comedy or satire to speak truth to power. I mean, this isn't just about comedy. This was about speaking truth to power and fearlessly highlighting provocative political and social issues. I mean, and now more than ever in today's world, this is truly a public service.
But people keep speaking of Trump. People keep making fun of him. It doesn't matter. He seems to be impervious to it. He seems to have the skin of an aardvark, like he has a shield that everything just bounces off him. Of course, it won't stay that way forever. Nothing does. Everything changes. But for now, satire doesn't seem to have much effect, does it?
It seems like we're past satire right now. It's like real life is stranger than fiction. Real
Yeah.
politics are stranger. And if you watch Saturday Night Live, it's honestly it's not even as absurd as reality. And
I know, I know. What can a satirist do with that?
it's got to be, yeah, it's a huge challenge. And I know that this hour is 22 minutes is still running too. Amazing. What an amazing long run. Yeah. Do you still do guest appearances every now and then?
Every now and again I do, and I still get a little tiny, royalty. So may they run forever, Julie.
Yes. I mean, even though, yes, we live in a strange time, I think it's still so important to keep speaking truth to power. And I mean, yeah, that show really was a pioneer in that regard, using comedy to do that, using
Yeah.
satire to do that. So I'm wondering, how did growing up in Newfoundland, how did that shape you as a performer and a person? I know that really, um, you know, I know you had to challenge Canadian stigmas against you associated with being from there, and you address that in your comedy with CODCO, right?
Yes. Um, you know, um, uh, Growing up in Newfoundland, comedy is very important to a Newfoundlander. And so they wouldn't really even let you sleep in the house, let alone feed you, unless you were funny. So I don't know what happened to all those unfunny Newfoundland children. They're probably dead or something. But so comedy was very important. Like if you could, in my family, I didn't actually grow up with my family. I grew up with my two maiden aunts and an uncle. But in my family, if you were funny, you could pretty well get away with anything. If you made my mother laugh, and if you were sensitive or anything like that, you might as well. It's like one of the big things in Newfoundland is giving people a hard time, like taking the piss. Like, if you're really close to someone, then you really give them a hard time. And like, the people say to you, "What's wrong with you, boy? Sure, I'm only giving you a hard time." And I often thought to say, but didn't. That is what's wrong with me. You're giving me a hard time and I can't take it. So there's that thing of toughening you up, giving you a hard time so that when you get out into this rough and tumble world, you will be able to take it. Right. And so people are very, very funny, and they have to be, because that is the coin of the realm, being funny. And say, like, I have a brother who I do a character named Jakey Dunn, who's almost entirely based on my brother. My brother keeps saying he's going to, take a percentage, but and bad boyfriends I've had in the past, but um, it, he's much funnier than I am. You know what I mean? In a day to day, you know. So it's a wonderful gift that we have that has been given to us through no fault of our own, forced upon us sometimes. But yeah, it's something that I'm very grateful for. And to be from Newfoundland, and certainly I didn't feel that way when I was young. I had a deep sense of shame about being from here because we didn't join till 49. And Canadians, in Quebec, they had a whole industry, a whole publishing industry based entirely on books they called Newfie jokes, which sold brilliantly, apparently. But so yeah, we were the butt of every joke. We went from being Britain's doormat to being Canada's laughing stock. So yeah, so we had to. There was a general sense in the early 70s of Newfoundlanders just going, "Oh fuck it, we can't. We got to make a change here." And so I think that things have changed. The general Canadian opinion of us has, changed. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really amazing. And so I was wondering, so how did you come to get cast as Annie in the Institute? Because she really seems tailor-made for you, given your legendary experience with creating and portraying these zany, outlandish characters. I mean, she's perfect for you. I mean, just a few examples of her quirks. She checks Tim's mouth because she thinks the Chinese government is listening in via her fillings in his teeth. She plays hopscotch because the Dalai Lama said people can't read her mind. And her parting advice to Tim is to keep his eyes open, all of them. That's what I'm pointing at that. So I did like how did you get the role? Did you audition? Like how did
I
that
auditioned, and then Jack, I came back for a second audition, and then and then I got the role. But in the book, as you know, Annie lasts till the end, but they've made lots of different changes from the book for sure. But and my friend Bob Joy, he went, "You're Annie. She's my favorite character." Bob plays that awful evil doctor who thinks he's doing good, but is actually perpetrating evil at the same time. Bob is amazing. But then, then I was so happy to play Annie and so happy to work with Ben Barnes, who was just an amazing guy. And I was so nervous when I went there because I'd never worked with, these people before. I'd never done anything for MGM, never worked with Jack. And Ben Barnes came up to me and in a beautiful English accent said, "Oh, I'm so excited for our scenes together. I can't wait." And I was just full of trepidation and worry and concern and anxiety. And I thought, oh my God, here's a guy who's so excited. I should get fucking excited and let the other stuff go. And he was just a dream to work with, as was Jack Bender. And I worked with another Canadian too, Dan Byrne, but I didn't get to work with anybody. Mostly I'm by myself off in my tent.
Yeah, yeah. You did a lot of you did almost all of your scenes one on one with Ben Barnes. There's another with the chief of police briefly, but it was mostly you and Ben Barnes. I I'm wondering how he managed to keep a straight face sometimes. Did he ever crack up laughing? I had a staring
Couple of times. I guess he both laughed a couple of times. Yeah. But no, he was just brilliant to work with. And I saw some when I was doing ADR, I saw and he looked so great on screen too, doesn't he? And yeah, like he was great. As I'm sure I read somewhere that maybe they're looking at a second season. And so the way that Sean Majumdar comes back in From as a ghost, I'm hoping Annie will come back as a ghost and putting that out there into the universe in hopes that it will happen.
That would be amazing. I love how From doesn't force us to say goodbye to certain certain characters because yeah, they can just come back as ghost entities, whatever they may. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I do live streams every week for the Institute, and everyone was just so disappointed to see Annie get killed off. She was such a favorite among the fans every week, and we were just like, what is going on here? I mean, did you know that? Did you know when you got the part that they were changing what happened in the book and killing her off early?
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I did know that, but I was hoping through some, magical thinking, that would change. But tragically, it did yet.
Yeah, unfortunately. But hey, you never know. You never know. Maybe she could come back as a ghost entity. And she obviously had some knowledge of real conspiracies going on, mixed with some wild delusions at the same time. But she was easily the most colorful and unusual character in the whole show. What I mean, you're no stranger to outlandish characters at all. So, what's your process before getting into an outlandish character like that?
I, you know, to a certain extent, Stephen King, you could tell from the novel that Stephen King, and sometimes Stephen King does love all the powerless, the people who truly are are not making it, the people who live on the streets, the people, and he often gives them power that people don't know that they have. Like Annie obviously is insane, but also she has second sight and she knows things beyond, the five senses, right? She had a sixth sense of things. And I don't know. My process is I feel I have no process. Is that one of the things I'd like to say is that the script was there. You know what I mean? And so the script is everything, isn't it? You just go with that. And Jack is such a great director too, and gave me such a because I was very nervous. And you look out on a sea of black shirts like so many crew and, and you think, oh my God, and they're running behind time and now it's my scene. And then I'm going to really fuck it up. And, but Jack was great at giving me confidence and working with Ben was a dream, really. I just thought he was the nicest guy. And, it is funny, isn't it? Because you expect people who are doing extraordinarily well in their careers and kind of, on the way up for them to be not. And it turns out usually that we're really pleasant, good people, good, kind people. Plus, he has a psychiatrist for a father and a therapist for a mother. So, I mean, that could be a disaster because sometimes that's very difficult. But he was just an enormously great human being, and I think Jack Bender is too. I didn't spend as much time with Jack, but yeah. So I think the whole cast probably, because I think of Bob over there and Mary Louise, and she's so fantastic. So I didn't get to work with them, but I can. We haven't seen it here yet. It isn't in Canada yet, so I'm really looking forward to seeing. I probably won't watch the first three because I'm in it. That's part of my process. I don't watch myself, but I probably should because I can learn a few things. But it's just the chasm between what you think you're doing and what we've actually done is so deep that sometimes you think if I go down there, I may never crawl back up again. So
Right, absolutely. And yeah, Robert Joy says it's too bad you didn't get to do any scenes with him because you go back all the way to CODCO when he was there. Was he on the series or in the
no,
troupe with you?
he was part of the comedy troupe. The funny story about Bob is that he joined CODCO when we were doing the tour of Newfoundland, replacing someone who'd stayed in Toronto to work in the theater in Toronto. And Bob was at Oxford. He was the Rhodes Scholar, and he came home on his summer break from Christchurch. And so, but then the tour lasted longer. So he asked the Christchurch people if he could extend his holiday, and they said no. So he quit Oxford and stayed with CODCO. And Mrs. Joy, Flo, never really forgave us, never got over it. It was just, it almost killed her that Bobby had stayed in CODCO instead of staying in Oxford. But anyway, Bob then left when we broke up as a theater kind of comedy troupe. Bob went on to do uh, oh um, with Anne Jackson and Eli Wallach, a play they were doing in Toronto, and then he went from Toronto to Broadway, and then became one of the 10. Esquire named him one of the 10 great faces on Broadway at that point, and then he went on from there. So, but we're doing a CODCO reunion, so in October. So Bob's coming back. We're going to get together again, see how that goes. But we're just doing a fundraising thing where so we haven't been together really since the last millennium. Yeah.
That's awesome. Another reunion. I bet that'll be a lot of fun. The guys up with everyone. Um, actually, yeah. So as Annie, so you didn't ad lib anything then. It was all in the script.
It was all in the script. I didn't ad lib a thing. In fact, I had been warned not to ad lib because I'm a big ad libber, and so I see the line and then I change it to fit better in my mouth, and but then as soon as they're very very specific, and so there was a lovely woman on the continuity person. And so she would just come over and go, it's not you know. And so you could tell that there was quite a strong lock on the script. And that was fine with me because the script served all the purposes that it needed to serve. And it didn't really need me to ad lib. I was perfectly comfortable within the script.
It just happened to be a dream perfect fit for you based on your history. That's awesome. Because yeah, if I didn't know better, I would have sworn you just you made up that character yourself based on the hilarious characters that you played in your career. Um, and I was curious too, because I remember you were only in one episode of Slasher, and yet I remember that character so well. It was the very first episode of Slasher season one. You played a nosy neighbor, a very unpleasant nosy neighbor. And so I've actually seen you get unfortunately murdered twice, your characters murdered twice on shows. And at least this time it wasn't so gruesome, but in Slasher, I mean they chopped off her hands and her feet, and you had to do the death scene. In in the Institute, it was just the post-mortem scene where you're just laying there. Right.
And maybe I'm not really dead. Perhaps I'm not really dead. I mean, I could have just been, you know, how people sometimes come back from that sort of thing. But no, the slasher,
No.
you know, I don't like scary movies and things because I find them so frightening, but they're so much fun to do. We had to stay up all night to cut my legs and arms off. Somebody had to fly in from Toronto and stuff, but it was just gobs of fun.
I bet. And then having to lay there, is it difficult lay there playing dead? It's gotta be.
No, it really was. I mean, I'm serious. I know I sound like I'm being, you know, a bit sarcastic, but I'm not. I really did enjoy it a lot.
I bet. Yeah, with Andy, of course, you're just laying there, and so it was a little bit less colorful, but yeah, I
Do we know?
just
Do
find
we know yet in the series, as you see it, who did that to me?
no, no,
Right.
it is still. Well, wait, is it still? It was not made clear at first. No, they made it pretty clear. They made it pretty clear. They didn't come out and flat out say it, but there was a member of the institute, one of the I think it was Miss Sigsby, actually. Miss Sigsby said we should have taken him out too, referring to Tim. So I think that's all the confirmation we need.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, unfortunately, but I I was really sorry to see Annie go because she was the highlight of the show for me and for everybody else in my
Julie,
community
you are
watching.
so kind. Thank you so much. That makes me feel so good. You know, thank you. You're spreading joy here, a lot of it, and I'm going to try to take it and pass it on around the community.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I'm just speaking the truth. This is how I feel. And I absolutely loved Annie, and so did my whole community watching my lives every week. And we were just so disappointed to see you go. Um, but who knows? You never know. Maybe she'll be back. And, you know, is there, you've played so many amazing characters too. I wanted to ask you, out of all the characters you created, do you have a favorite or more than one favorite that you portrayed?
Um, with Kathy Jones, who has been my colleague now for, 50 years, we played two old ladies who walked in the park, Mrs. Enid and Mrs. Eulalia. And I found their voices so easy to write for that for a while, they were my favorite. Then I found Dakey Dunn really easy to write for, and then he was my favorite. And then Marg is a kind of perennial favorite, but harder, I find sometimes to write it in Marg's voice. But yeah, when we were doing that weekly show, I found that it was so much easier. I'm just about to publish another book, but it's a memoir of sorts with HarperCollins. It's coming out in March 2026. That isn't exactly just about, I know, but I just finished writing it. And I still find it, I did write a novel that I found that writing easier because it was a fictional character that I was writing about. But writing about myself, I just found it so hard. And so I've never been comfortable. So in character that I'm putting on that feels good, that I feel like I can write with, is good. My own, me, I not so much. No.
Yeah. Um, and honestly, in terms of spreading joy, speaking of that, I mean, this is what you've done throughout your entire career. This is what I mean. Comedy spreads joy. Comedy is medicine. Laughter is medicine. So, I mean, you've been doing a public service for your entire career, spreading joy. Truly. No,
Thank you.
we need that in this world. It's a harsh, you know, brutal world for a lot of people, and laughter is, it's documented that, there was documented evidence of the benefits of laughter, and
It's like the plague did something to people's minds, COVID, not only to their respiratory systems, but to their minds. It's like we went through an international emergency, a global plague, and it's never been the same since. People have been so off. You know what I mean? Don't you find? Like at least, well, at least 49% of the population of North America, seems to be, gone. And the world is turning towards the right as if that ever worked. I mean, we've already proven, I mean, the 1930s, 1940s weren't that long ago. I don't understand why people would think, oh, fascism would be a better way to go. Autocracy is the future for me. Like, yeah, it's been so good for so many for so long. Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I know. You would think people would learn from history, Uh, if you don't learn from it, you're doomed to repeat it. And people just don't learn from it, unfortunately. But thankfully, I mean, I really feel that programs like our show, The Daily Show in the US, and your show that you created, this hour is 22 minutes. They're doing a public service, and will continue to. And that's a big part of your legacy in this difficult world we live in now, and these trying times. They're speaking truth to power.
And don't you love that Stephen King always loves like the homeless and the crazy and children, and he has such a compassionate view of the world and such a dark view also. Like I find it, I don't usually read him anymore because it's too scary. And when I close my eyes, I have kind of, visions of that clown coming up out of the grate kind of. But I love, I love his humanity, and he writes like, oh my God, he's so good. And then he's so good and he's so good. Do you know what I mean? He's so good at what he does, and his heart is so good. And he loves, fuck ups and all the powerless and the people who have no one to speak up for them and can't speak up for themselves, and he speaks up for them, and he's sold millions and billions of books based on that, right? You think that people would go, I'm going to try to do that Stephen King thing and like the little people.
That's a beautiful thing. It really is. Um, and as for I'm wondering, like, what advice would you give to young comedians and performers who are trying to make it in the business? What advice would you give?
I think it would be different if I was in America, but in Canada, I think that the advice I would have is to start, if you're a comedian, get a bunch of other comedians together and be a collective and a comedy troupe. You know what I mean? And work together towards a common end. Like all the shows that, Mark Critch has Son of a Critch. He was part of a collective called Catfoot. Rick Mercer has the Rick Mercer Report, who was also on this hour. He was part of Corey and Wade's Playhouse. Johnny Harris has a national TV show. He was part of the Newfoundland Dance Party. Myself and Kathy Jones, CODCO. Do you know what I mean? It's like you get this strength from working together. You learn so much that, and I always found it, stand-ups, of course, stand-ups are totally different than the kind of work that I do, but it always seems such a lonely life out there, traveling around, and there's so many bitter stand-ups, bitter, lonely stand-ups, like I always think, no, get a gang, get a crowd around you, and, that will help you advance, right? And you will help them and they'll help you, and, all that.
Strength in numbers. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
you started so young with your troupe. You started so young, and you guys, against all odds, made it. It took and it took a long time, but it wound up CODCO wound up even being a TV series too that was successful. So that's just so awesome and inspiring for I'm sure for young comedians who want to make it in the business too. No. I know you've got to run. I'm wondering if you have anything upcoming that you're able to talk about that's coming up. Anything other than this reunion special for CODCO?
Well, the book, it's called A Brassy Bit of Aging Crumpet. It's coming out with HarperCollins, and it's a book of essays, but they're kind of like a memoir. And then I do a short, but you're not going to get it because it's on Bell. It's called The Mrs. Downstairs. It's a guy who gets a house that he thinks he's in alone, and it's on the sea, and it's everything he's ever dreamt of. And he walks out on the deck in the morning, and a voice says, "You're up early." And it turns out to be this woman who lives in the basement. She's been there for 8 years, and so he's only rented the top half of the house, and he's looking for solitude, and she's looking for a friend. And so no matter how early he gets up in the morning, she's out on her deck smoking, waiting for him to come out. And so it's their relationship. So this was our fourth season that's coming out in September. And oh my goodness, I'm going on tour. Oh, out west, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, kind of in March. And I can't remember whenever. This is why I did so badly in school. Whenever I'm asked a direct question, my mind goes completely blank, just blank. But anyway, thanks for asking me, Julie, and thanks for the interview. It was great fun.
Thank you so much. It's just been an honor to talk to you, Ms. Walsh, and yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing what you do next in your career, and your long, incredible, legendary career.
Uh, Thanks, you darling. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye now. Bye now.
So that was my interview with the incredible, legendary icon of Canadian comedy, Mary Walsh. And of course, Institute viewers know her as fan favorite character Annie. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And until next time, keep on deep diving and let's see what we can uncover together.